All right, is it about time for a math question?
It
So
is.
you ready to jump right in?
Yeah.
All right, so over here on Twitter from Katie Harrison, we have a question about fractions. She needs help dividing fractions. So what is 6/11 divided by 8/11?
Well, I'm going to toss that over to Becca because she is like the fractions queen at our school. So
Was it 8/11? Is that right? 6/11 divided by 8/11?
Yes.
Did I hear that right? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I guess the first off, I'll explain what it means when we divide fractions. Sometimes fractions are so abstract that we end up not really understanding what we're doing, and sometimes that's where we get confused with fractions, is because they are abstract sometimes. But what we're basically asking when we're doing 6/11 divided by 8/11 is we're asking ourselves how many 8/11 go into 6/11. So if we think about the size of these two fractions, 8/11 is going to be larger than 6/11. So our answer should be a fraction less than one whole is one thing that we should expect. So we're finding out how many of these go into the other. One other thing that is important to know is that anytime you're dividing by some number, so I'll give you a little example on the side here. And this is something, a concept that'll carry you through high school mathematics and even upper level mathematics, that if you understand this concept, you're making your life a lot easier. But when you're dividing by any number, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So the reciprocal is the inverse of a number. So let's see, here's an example. If I had 3/4, the reciprocal is 4/3. If I had 1/2, the reciprocal is going to be 2/1, which is the same, as just 2. So if I divide by 2, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, 1/2. If I divide by, again, 3/4, it's the same as multiplying by 4/3. And that concept is really important because multiplication with fractions procedurally is not too bad. You just multiply numerators, multiply denominators. So if we can change our problem to a multiplication problem instead, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. So instead of writing it as divided by 8/11, just like with the 3/4, we're going to change it and write it as times 11/8. And so if I rewrite it this way, this is saying the same exact thing. And the reason this works is just because division and multiplication are inverses of each other. Now, there's a trick that I taught my kids before, and some teachers teach this, some don't. But we can simplify our fractions before we multiply. And so you can think of this as, and I'll show you why this is. So when I multiply across 6 times 11, it'll look like this. There's my numerator. And then 11 times 8, there's my denominator. So 8 times 11. If you notice this here, they all end up on the same, if you have two numbers on the top, they'll still end up on the top. Two numbers on the bottom, they'll still end up on the bottom. So you can see that here. And if you notice 11/11, that's just one whole, and multiplying by one whole is not changing it at all. So hence those 11s can actually be simplified before you multiply. Then we end up getting 6/8, and we can actually simplify those more. And the way we know that we can simplify is if the same number goes into both the numerator and denominator. So both of these numbers can be divided by 2. And we get 3/4 for our simplest answer. Which makes sense, again, is how many 8/11 can fit into 6/11? Well, not the whole thing, just 3/4 of it.